You're going to be able to see both of us?
I gotta
Sit closer.
do elbow to elbow on you.
Okay. You gotta go this way with it. Yeah. There we go. But it's kind of crooked.
I think it's fine.
Well, the phone needs to go this way a little bit. Like, yeah. It looks there. Okay. Yeah. Our side's crooked. Okay, that looks good. There we go. Hello, everyone. Does anybody hear us? Are we on?
That's fair.
Okay.
Well, if you want your earphones,
Yeah, where are they at?
right there in front of you, hanging over your mic.
Oh, okay.
I had it all ready for you.
Mm. Yeah, well, you know me and electronics. There we go. Ooh. Now we can
We
hear
gotta be close. Loving. Okay. Well, we got some people on today.
Yeah.
We are live with our third.
It's loud. Can we turn it
Well,
down?
yeah, we can turn it down. I don't know if we can or not. Yep. All right. Make sure we talk into this.
Okay.
Okay. We're live with our third episode of.
That probably wasn't the best thing to do.
I don't know. Just gonna screw our microphone up.
Okay.
It should be okay.
Perfect.
This can.
That's good.
Okay. Third episode, Brass Knobs and Back Talk.
That's right.
And we're live from where?
Wheel & Spoke Antique Mall, Portland, Indiana.
Yeah. And what else do we have? We have Centerville.
Centerville Antique Mall in Auction House is in Centerville, Indiana.
Yes.
Just west of Richmond. I always have to think. Yeah, it's west of Richmond, right?
Yeah. So from Portland, you take I-70 west. Well, we don't take I-70
You
from
take
Portland.
27 south, and you hit 70, and you're on 70 for about 4 or 5 miles. And then exit 145, and it goes right by Warm Glow Candle Company, and we are 2 miles south, right after you get off the exit on 145. And it's an easy drive.
Comparable in size, or
double the size as Wheel & Spokes. So this one has 35,000 square feet, and we have close to, I'm going to say more like 70,000 at the moment square feet there. So yeah, it's double for sure.
okay. I'm just getting our comments on so I can see them here because we can't see that far away.
Yeah, I'm blind. So I can see there's people saying something, but I don't know what it says.
Hello.
So,
Hi, Susan. Okay, so today's episode, and I'm sorry, I think we got crackling again, which I'm not very happy about. So hopefully.
Yeah, I don't understand why. There, now it's not doing it.
I don't know.
That's strange. Okay.
We are doing today, So You Want a Booth.
Good topic.
Okay.
Lots of inquiries on
that. Yes. So you want a booth. It's your first step, right? Wanting it is the first.
Wanting it's the first step, yes.
And you've been into the mall. Let's say you've been a collector or a customer at other places for a long time, and you finally find this place that you want to be a part of.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what the heck do you do?
Well, first of all, you want to inquire at that particular place to see if they're how you go about doing that.
Yeah, so a lot of places, if you go up to their customer service desk or you go up to their front counter, be like, and we get this all the time, every day.
Mm.
What do you got to do to be a renter here?
Yeah.
Okay. And first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the backside of it. So our end of it versus your end of
Right.
it. And the first thing we do is we have already put in an idea of if you are going to be a decent vendor from that question alone. Right?
Right.
Okay. This is, oh my gosh, don't put that up there. Click yours. We're going to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't here, anyways. We're not speaking for all malls, all locations, all places. Every place is different. Every place has their own criteria and thoughts about who they want their vendors to be.
Right.
We also have a little bit different set of thoughts and rules for this location versus Centerville.
Right.
Right? Because the malls,
location
and the malls are a little bit different from each other.
Right.
And we want to keep it that way.
Yeah. They're not going to be identical ever.
No, but each place usually has their own set of standards and or ideas on who they and what they want their retail to reflect.
Right. Exactly.
And here, we're just going to talk from experience based on our end first, like we said. And here, when you come up to the counter and you ask, hey, what do I got to do to be a vendor here? We at that moment are looking to see, first, how did you ask that? Do you just want to know price off the bat? Do you want to know, have you already put in this thought, process? We've watched you, most likely, we watch all of our customers, but we probably watched you look around, and we know what types of things you're buying. So we get an idea of what your
aesthetic is.
What your themes per se of collection is, and what it is that your price point is, kind of based on what you are buying. And a lot of times we're more apt to say something or bring people in who are customers because we know that you appreciate what the vendors currently have. We know that we will appreciate what you have to bring in as well.
That's true.
So you would ask about the space, what we have available, and we would begin your journey. Now, do you get in here right away?
Did I get in?
Do we get in? Do people get in here right away?
Yeah, not right away. Most of the time.
Yeah.
There's always exceptions because you honestly don't know at one point, all the time if you're going to have a booth coming up empty. We do require notification if someone is leaving.
I guess we might answer my own question. We don't usually have spaces available here.
No, we usually do not.
Not
right
in
away.
Portland location. One, because we are not as large of scale as Centerville is.
Right.
And second of all, people who do come to be vendors are kind of lifelongers here, which is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
We encourage highly for them to change things up often, but it's hard. It's hard to get in if people want in and they haven't been in it already. And one thing we do is make sure that available space comes open. We do look at outside vendors first.
Yes.
On our criteria on who put in applications, and we try to fill with new people before we offer to an existing vendor most of the time. Unless the exception is we would normally, if it's a larger space and a current vendor is wanting to expand and they followed the criteria that we set and rule, then we would offer them the larger space before we would rent that out.
Right, because it's hard to start large.
It is very hard.
Yeah, it's easier to start out small. The only convenient about that is once you start small, it takes time to get a larger booth. It doesn't happen overnight because those larger booths are already taken by people that have been in here for quite some time. So smaller booths are good to start out with, although I will have to say here at Wheel and Spoke, we don't have a lot of smaller booths per se. Our average is probably a 10 by 13 or 10 by 12 is probably I don't know. There's so many different sizes.
9 by 12 is a good size for our east side.
Right, and the other side has a little larger.
Yeah,
spaces.
And they're all over the place.
Yeah, so we don't actually have an average.
But we like that. That is part of the aesthetics of this mall.
Right.
We don't
so repetitive. We've got change in the eye with sizes, spaces of that makes a difference.
Yeah, it lets your eye float around a lot more freely versus going from one 8x4 space to the next 8x4 space, and
Right.
so on and so on.
Right.
And I'm sure those of you who are watching who are avid mall goers,
You know that.
you know that when
Yeah.
you go to a space and you have space after space after space that has the same general
size.
merchandise, the
Yeah.
same size, the same setups, you get bored fast.
Mhm.
You don't spend time in there as long. All that is purposeful. That's why when we talked about you wanting to come in as a vendor, you don't get the space right away. You might be on the list for a while. It doesn't mean we don't like what you got or who you are. It's the fact of, well, this is our open space that we have, and who's going to work in that spot. We know the customer flow as far as, hey, maybe we habitually only see women go down that space,
Right.
and if you're a tool vendor, you might not work out that well, just for the fact. Or does that open space have walls? Does it have shelving availability? Are you going to have large furniture? Are you going to have glassware?
Right.
What kind of lighting does your products need?
Yes.
All kinds of things.
All things go into our factor of thinking
on our end.
Will that person, after what if we've talked to them, or read their application, talked to them, are they going to fit in that space?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if we've contacted you in any way, we have an idea that you may, if we're saying, hey, what kind of things do you have? We might have a few more questions than what our application allows us to ask. So we can narrow it down on who's going to fit in that particular area. And it's not just the space, but the area where that's at, because people will navigate towards one side or the other because of the things or the items that they're looking for. Not that we try to keep it separate. And we do try to throw some different things in once in a while, but you also don't want them to get lost in another person. If somebody has comic books and they're in an area that's maybe not quite
right. If
where
we
those
got
people
if we
would
got
go.
a lot of glassware, a lot of decorative type items, a lot of Victorian style things, we're not going to throw you in if you got cast iron right there in the middle. Particularly. Now we will put it at a point where it's going to be a break point, and then from then on we might have a few booths that kind of go in there or have a mixture of things here and there.
Yeah.
And generally, I'm just looking down this aisleway here and making sure what we're saying is actually true. We have a booth in front of us that is primarily feminine.
Yeah.
More decorative style. It does have glassware, signage, a little bit of furniture, but not a lot.
No particular style, no particular area.
It's a very mixed match of items available. And then we go to the next space, and it is feminine based, but it is more mid-century modern. Right. And then, in my opinion, when I'm thinking about aesthetics of the layout of the mall, you have a decorative type booth, and then you have a mixture of things where it allows you to put the next space to be a little bit more on the masculine or industrial side, and then another one who's a little bit more, and really mid-century modern goes really well with being able to intermix those types of things because they kind of float all over the place when it comes to what they offer.
Right.
And that is usually our break point is our mid-century booths until we kind of navigate to the next type of item.
Right. Then we have more of a primitive type.
Yeah.
After that, and then it goes into a manly booth.
So mid-century.
Then it kind of starts
glassware, and then decorative, and then
So we always get compliments on how well this place is laid out, and if a large group comes in, a large group of people that know each other come in, everyone's looking for something different, and it keeps everyone interested and happy because everybody looks for other different things.
Oh yeah.
So we try not to be too repetitive. We want a wide variety of items here. So that's another criteria if you're coming in and we have 20 booths with mid-century modern with the exact same thing, not exact, but we may not choose you over someone that has something that we don't have much of.
Well, and maybe at the time that's not trending.
Exactly. And then it's going to be a waste of your money.
And we don't want you to not succeed. So our biggest thing is, okay, you put in this application, you've told us generally what types of things you collect because that's what you're going to be the best at buying. And will it work in the available space we have?
Right.
So go ahead.
When you come in and ask, hopefully one of the cashiers will say, well, we have an application. That's how you start the whole process, fill that out, bring it back in, and they will look at it, and
Mhm.
we will go from there.
Yeah. Well, currently, we both manage vendor applications and a mixture of everything here, but we have approximately, I would say in my binder, close to 100 people.
Is there that many already? Yeah, it kind of goes up and down.
Applicants. And some of them we, review, and every time one comes in, we at least have some kind of note that once we've spoken with the person or the cashier has spoken with the person, they'll kind of give us some notes as well, because we want to feel for you. This is a business where we have to succeed and you have to succeed, and we don't succeed unless you succeed. So if you come in and primarily state items that you have and the way you explain it to us as mall ownership, if you explain to us that you have things that we could generally find very easily at Goodwill or a garage sale, you're probably not going to go to the top of the list. Just because that's the aesthetics that we play by. Doesn't mean that every mall is that way, for sure. More malls generally float towards flea market, and some don't at all. Some is primarily glassware you'll find in places. But there's a good selection of malls out there within Ohio and Indiana, though, Pennsylvania area, that still have a really good mixture.
They do.
And our biggest thing is, since we are women ran here, we don't just want decoration.
Right.
We don't just want repurpose. We don't just want things that only the feminine audience and customer base will enjoy. We really work hard to try to find men and women who collect masculine type items. I don't know if I want to say masculine type items. I'm being very, very sexist here. Very industrial, very rustic, let's say, instead of masculine. We encourage you to apply.
Absolutely.
We do very well with the sales on those types of items. Tools, and I'm not talking tools that you're going to bring in and just lay on the floor or that have rust and stuff on them. We have a vendor here, and if he's watching, we may have him as a guest star one day, because I think he would be really good. He actually I don't know if he operates, but he does help out with the Fort Recovery Museum, the blacksmith shop there. I did see some pictures of he was talking to Coldwater students there about that, but really enjoys the collection of tools. So that's what makes him so successful. That vendor loves what he collects. He knows what he collects. He knows what to pay for the things he collects. He outsources customer base to bring them back in, constantly staying up to date on what he's sold, knowing how to replace it, knows exactly what the case looks like. He has a case and a wall. You can see every price tag without touching anything. Every item is clean. Blades have tape on them. The only thing I would complain about is his handwriting. I was just going through the agreement as far as, okay, we've selected you as a vendor, and now what do we expect of you? Certain vendors will check every single box off. And nobody's perfect, obviously. Neither are we. So,
but that would be my only complaint. But he does write on both sides of his tags, even. So usually, if you can't figure out,
gives you an opportunity to know.
You can look at
and if we have questions, we'll answer. So, those I'm just thinking of in my head of really good vendors that we have, and we have a lot of really good vendors that follow what we put in place. We are constantly researching, constantly trying to figure out ways to improve. How do we improve our vendors that we have? How do we help them do even better? And every little bit of it. So back to your side as the customer, as the wannabe booth renter. You want a booth, and
you come in.
But before that, though, like they're just out there. They've always been a collector. They've always gone places. Like, think of you before you were in a mall, before you did any of it. The thought process, the thought comes into your head that you can do this, you want to do this. The first thing you should ask yourself is, do you have the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
speaking from two people who don't have the time and try to
do too
do
much.
one more thing every
Yeah.
day. But yeah, do you have the time? And something really cool here that we do is throw seasonal events. And we just launched the idea of implementing our summer flea markets outside.
Right.
To give our current vendors an opportunity to sell what they can't sell here, first of all,
Or new people.
or prospective booth vendors. Really, as a good business strategy, we're not doing that just for fun. We want to know who else is out there that maybe hasn't reached out. You got really really cool items. You really merchandise well. You set up things. You price right.
You know how to talk to your customers.
Your items are clean. Your good customer service. All those types of things, because it gives us an opportunity to see you beyond paper.
Right.
So it's really neat for us to do that.
It also brings in new customers that may not normally come into an antique mall. Well, I don't want antiques. I'm not coming in there.
Yeah.
Or I've been there years ago and no. I'm not
that's back. A big thing we hear. Oh, we've been in here years ago.
Well, you need to come back because it's not the same. New ownership, makes a huge difference. And people that may go to a flea market, well, if our doors are open, they may just stop in here. So it's a bonus for both ways.
Right.
And it's just going to be a good thing, I feel, hopefully.
Yeah. So, okay, so you thought about that. First thing we said is time. Do you have the time? And the reason we say that is because you have to put in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you be a booth owner and have a full-time job?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you be a booth owner and have a family?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you be a booth owner and not live nearby?
Yes, but it's hard.
It's hard.
That's probably the hardest.
Can you be a booth owner and not have a vehicle?
Probably not.
You can. We do have a few.
You can.
Yes.
If you have resources to get here.
Just remind yourself that your resources are limited to you.
Yes. Go ahead.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, what kind of time do you think it takes to
Yeah.
be in your booth? How many times do you think you should be here in a month?
And this was a huge thing that we really, really, really tried, with lack of better words, say beat into current vendors' heads, is if you don't work at it and you don't come in and you don't make it a priority to get in here once a week, at least once every other week, you will not make it.
Yes. That is true.
You will not do well.
And it's the same at Centerville.
And it is the absolute same for us.
Yes.
If we have, I think we're down to maybe 4 spaces in here now that we kind of occupy.
Yes, and we had more to begin with.
We did, because we don't want empty spaces. So it's always good to ask, because even if everything looks full, we might have something occupied, so that way it's better for the customer's eyes.
Right.
But most of the time they are full.
They are.
And we do need an outlet of our own, because we do like to scatter ourselves and so on.
Yes, there's reasons for that.
We try to lead by example a little bit. But when we don't, and we become too busy for our own spaces, we do know to downsize, because we're like, okay, we can't manage that many spots. But at the same time, when we don't move stuff around, stuff don't sell.
Yeah.
We had a large space that we just did this to right after spring market. Everything in that booth stayed stagnant for at least 4 months, probably. I mean, it's not that you didn't sell anything, but it wasn't. But it was very slim.
It was slim in comparison.
And then we redid it, and we're talking half a day's work.
And we've kept almost everything.
We kept everything that was in there, and introduced a chunk, like a section of new things from our spring market that we had back there.
Made the whole thing.
And what happened?
Oh my gosh.
That
sold.
And it wasn't the new things that sold. It was the things that were already in there.
Yeah.
So so talking about going from wanting the space, applying, deciding if you have time, the next thing would be to determine what your style is.
Right. That's a hard one for people.
That is a very hard one for people. We met with every vendor that came in when we first took over and asked them, if you had to describe your space, what style? In a sentence, what would you say?
And not very many.
And almost everybody gave me the answer of a mixture of things.
Yeah.
And that was a huge flag. Mm-hmm. That was, okay, that means you're really not dedicated to knowing what you collect. You don't know yourself enough to be successful. So we offered the opportunity to get into each booth and help everybody.
Right.
And then when we do that, whether they like it or not, we say, this is your style. This is what you're good at buying. Mm-hmm. If you keep your items
Within
more
that,
within those collections, you will do better.
because collections sell
So,
themselves.
And if you just throw your stuff in a space,
Nope.
if you say you have a mixture, again, I'm looking at the space in front of me. Say you have a mixture of things, but if you don't keep your collections of glassware together, your collections of fabrics together, your collections of cast iron together, if you don't keep things in a collection, the eye as a customer will never see it.
Nope.
There has to be a large enough section of something to make them want to come to your space and then know that that is a collection that you have, and you'll most likely have more that they'll come back to your space.
That's so true.
Yeah.
One of the vendors just had asked me, I'd say 2 weeks ago, so I have this many of this. How do you think I should put this in my booth?
Yeah.
Put them in together as a nice collection so it looks pleasing to the eye. And because when customers walk by, they will see that because that's what they're looking for. If it's a color that they're looking for or just the style of that particular item, it catches their eye. Otherwise, it's sporadic and you have so much to focus on in here. If you have a collection that catches their eye, that's what they'll see. And then you'll sell.
Right.
It's pretty.
So to be a booth vendor, to make the decision, it starts as a customer. It starts with you as a customer. You have to really evaluate and understand your psychological reasoning for stopping. What brings you into a space?
Right.
What makes you pick something up?
Right.
What makes you walk past?
Yeah.
What makes you come back? So if you can't ask yourself those things,
answer them,
you will not want to be here.
Right.
Yes, you have to answer them. And it's true that maybe 20 years ago, you didn't have to think about any of those things.
And
100% that's true because there was nothing out there to compete with except for you walking in the door from different places to different places and seeing what was there in person. Now we have it every second of our lives
because of
Pinterest,
of
social
internet,
media, marketing,
social media,
anything. We have this device at our hands that allows us to shop anywhere, anytime.
And our perception's different of things because of that.
Right. We don't see. We don't have the time in life anymore to worry about rummaging through something. And don't get me wrong, we do like spaces that you can rummage because that is the fun of it too. To get your hands on it and really pick if you want to be a picker.
Right.
Pick through what somebody has and what they collected, and that's okay. We just ask for you to do it in a cleanly way, but it's so different because you literally could get an idea of the world on the way to do something. What's new? What's trending? What's out there? Hey, I've really been searching for this coin for 15 years. And before 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd have to physically walk into every space to try to find where that might be. And that was fun, right? But now you can sit on your potty and find the coin and ship it to you. So we as humans don't like to work. We don't like to work. I mean, we like to go on adventures, but we don't like to work. Right? So, when you're coming in here and this is an enjoyable thing for you, this is usually a leisurely thing, you want to enjoy your time. So as the vendor, once you've asked yourself if you want to be one, you've put in the application, you've decided what your collection is, and you're to the next step. The big next step is how you are going to present yourself as a vendor. How are you going to merchandise it? And that's a huge one for success. And
you really need to go to look at different places and what
catches
your eye. How is it done?
And not every mall is for you.
No,
not every shop, not every space available is for you. We were talking about Centerville because that's our sister store here to Portland, and you could be a different vendor down each aisle,
right.
Because it's such a large place.
Yeah.
And, we don't have quite that luxury here. So we do, we've stuck with one main aesthetics. And larger malls can get away with doing things a little bit different. But I'll tell you what, though, the customers really enjoy their time at both places for different reasons.
For different reasons, yes. We was talking before about the the booth spaces all being the same size. They're not here like that so much. Centerville's more like that. There are some odd sized ones and big ones and little ones, but there's a lot of repetitive sized ones. But if you really want, as a vendor, to make your space pop for people to actually want to walk into your space, you really need to up the merchandising level so they will walk into your space even more when you have repetitive sized booths next to each other, because they all start looking the same to the customer. So if you can, it's not just about the merchandise, it's also about how well the merchandise is displayed in order for you to invite those customers in. Once you get them in the booth, then they start picking items up and looking at it and feeling it. And that's what you want them to do, because that's what gets them to buy.
Okay.
So
Yeah. We encourage all kind of feedback as you guys are watching, because it definitely lets us know that we're staying on track, number one, and number two, that you're listening. So we had somebody had commented, and they about, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was mentioned how they really appreciate that we make our vendors responsible for coming in and changing all things all the time.
mhm.
And to really evaluate you as a vendor if you have time. So time beyond anything is the number one thing you have to determine if you're wanting to be a vendor, because we expect you to have time.
Yes. Otherwise, don't waste your time.
Because it's wasting ours.
Yes. Yes.
Turnover rate is the most wasted time in the world for any business.
Yes.
And that's true here too. So we really strive to make sure we make a decision on our end. Is that vendor at least a year-long commitment?
Right.
We don't make you sign a commitment of time here other than a 30-day notice. So you would rent for 2 months and you could be out. But that doesn't happen because we give you the opportunity to succeed, and we really do want you to. And if you find yourself that you've accepted the journey, you've decided that you want to be a vendor, at least here in our mall, you've brought things in, the best thing you can do is to say, hey, when you have a second, can you come and look at my space?
Yes. Ask us questions.
And we might be like, oh, I don't have time.
Or can you come back another day?
But that is
you.
the biggest thing that we can offer, because we don't get to see everybody all the time. And that's what we try to make ourselves different from other places is we want to be on the journey with you. We want your space to be something that we would not mind calling our own.
That's true.
So no matter what kind of thing you have that you're selling, it may not be anything either of us like. I know we've both been into spaces, and Mom hates paper and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate primitives and you like them. You know,
so
it's hard for us sometimes. But the cool thing about our age gap, probably,
it's a good thing,
and our collectible criteria is we kind of bounce off of each other, do it all. And then we have Gary and Gentry, who are also different. So it's really neat, and it's easy. Back to our very first episode, why do you do it? Why did you choose to do it as a family? Well, we have a really good outsource of age, definitely, to cover what's collecting in every era.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much that helps me. I'm sure it helps all of us. It helps Gentry. I know it helps you too. Because like Gentry and I was doing stuff down there last week, and I'm like, she likes certain things that I just don't like it. But you know what? She's young. That's what the young kids look for. So we have to cater to that too. If she wasn't there helping me with that part, I would probably say, I'm not.
And that brings up a good point. As a vendor, you decide what you like, okay, and you also then have to learn what the customers like. But don't veer off too far where it doesn't become your space. But at the same time, you have to research. So you have to have time, you have to have commitment, you have to have good items, you have to have merchandising ability in some way, whether it's asking for the help on merchandising or knowing how to do it yourself. Not everybody can do that, and we 1,000% know that. But we love it. So if you have a problem with doing that and you want to be a potential vendor or are a vendor, don't hesitate, because we might not be able to get to you right away, but and also don't be offended when we completely rip your place apart. But we see it every day, and we see what people buy, and we know why certain booths succeed and why certain ones don't. And we've been through a couple booths in here multiple times, and sales do increase whether or not people think they do or don't. Once we move things around, you will see a spike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we know that because we see the numbers, and we do make notes. Hey, we were in that space
Yep.
this time. What did it do the next month?
Right.
Next 2 months? How did it do? When did it dissipate? When did it start falling back off the cliff? What does the
Mhm.
space look like? What do they have? All those things on our end, those are our responsibilities, and it's our responsibility to give you as the
Feedback.
vendor feedback.
And we walk around. We'll take a couple hours sometimes. Not every week, but every other week. I would
Oh
say.
yeah, I think every week we get a text message from one of the other. Where are you? And then you're
Yeah,
like, oh,
well,
I got lost in this space.
because we're talking about how they could improve their space, or they
Yeah.
were doing really well because, and we take all that feedback to our own brains in the office and say, okay, this helps everyone.
Mhm.
It's not just that we're walking around shopping. That's not usually the case. I do that on the side.
Yeah, Carla, I see your question, and I'll get to you in just a minute. But yeah, so what did you say before the different eras of collection and so on? Oh, I had
Lost your train of thought.
I was gonna follow that, and I can't remember. Darn it! It was a good point. It really was. Anyways, it's doing your research. Research is a big thing. Making sure you go location to location, try different states. Also, you have research at your fingertips. Use that. Do lots of searching when you're pricing.
Pricing's a big thing.
Pricing's a big thing, and I think we'll do a whole different episode on kind of
so.
things like that. But pricing is huge
because you can price yourself out of the market depending where you're at. You can definitely do that.
And I think, and I've talked to a couple of our vendors here, and even one of our associates got some clicking going on. One of the associates had asked for help the other week, and if you don't know how to do it, don't be afraid to ask. But don't just use your Google Lens to go and say, I'm going to take a picture of this, and the internet's going to tell me how much I need to price it for. That is a huge, huge, huge mistake. It's a huge mistake.
It's a starting point to find out what it really is. Because sometimes you don't know what the name of it is.
Sure. The item that you're buying, what is this?
What is this? I don't know.
You should do that before you buy.
How to make the description up. Well, sometimes you don't have that opportunity. It's something, you're not sure what it is. I get that.
Yeah. But the first thing you should really consider after you decide, is it in a price point that would resell in the space you are, is
what's the highest price you can get for that? So don't overpay.
Don't overpay.
That's the very first step. Do not overpay if you're not going to make at least double. I mean, that's your very minimum.
Yeah.
So you have to factor in your rent costs and commission.
Not everything has to double.
No, but overall, if you was taking a spreadsheet,
you have to take into consideration things like how far are you willing to travel as a vendor for new products.
Yeah.
If you as a vendor are a local person, and you're going to come in here and be a vendor in our mall, and you decide that you're only going to go to garage sales and you're only going to go to local auctions, you're probably not going to do as well as somebody who's going to put some work into it and try some different spaces out. Agree?
Yes and no, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Because I know a couple of the vendors that don't go to auctions and they only do marketplace or garage sales. But she doesn't stay local either. She goes everywhere, and she knows how to do her stuff.
What's one thing, I'm pretty sure I know you're talking about, the one thing though that they can maximize their ability on that some can't, that would do the same thing?
Refurbishing. No.
Merchandising.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's the answer.
And what's the other thing? She's constantly in here weekly, if not twice.
Yes.
So if you're going to know that you have a limited amount of time to put into your space, you have to determine what you're best at and how to build on that.
Yes.
And if it's time of travel that you don't have, how can you capitalize on your space the best way with local items?
Right.
Because locally, you only have so much opportunity to buy.
True. And it gets stale.
Yep.
Too many people do
everybody's after the same market.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to have a good eye.
Good
How do
eye.
you capture those things that somebody else left behind?
Right. Um, yeah, and sometimes you just have to go outside your area that you normally go when you're going on vacations or whatnot. I'm sure most of you that are in like antiques and vintage and hunting, everybody does this. You go somewhere and you're like, I'm stopping there because I might find something really cool there.
Yeah, so
You should
Carla had asked what if we find that certain times of the year are better for
for the
you
mall
as a vendor,
as a vendor.
and likely it would be for the mall as well.
Yeah, and there's slow times and not slow times.
So as a vendor, things you'd have to consider are always when you're in retail is holidays.
Holidays are
So when you're a vendor and you come in and you, let's say, and we're usually pretty upfront with you. Let's say you come in and it's October. Okay. Your first month of rent is October.
you're going to do well. Maybe.
Normally when a new vendor comes in, the first thing we say is it's probably going to take you 3 months before you see your sales really take off.
And I say it takes 6 months to say what you're good at.
Yes. We used to say it's going to take 6 months for you to sell, and we don't see that anymore, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because we were going through a transition of customer base, so it did take a little bit. But now we're kind of back to a more standard, not back to, but
established
established customer base. That's not always the same, but we do have lots of returning customers for sure, weekly, daily customers. But we now have lots of traveling customers, and that's all due to these kind of things that we're doing to get our information out there.
Right.
Shoot darn. October. Okay, they come in October, and we say, remember, we have this coming up, and then you have the holiday season, so you're going to do really well. So make sure you get in and you get your things maxed. Like, fill your space. Do what you need to do to prepare for that busy season. So fall and winter are our busy seasons.
Yes.
And you would think that would be different because people travel for these types of things in the summer. But things you have to consider. So then you've gone through this busy season, and then it's Christmas. So everybody spent mostly what they're going to spend already in November.
Mm-hmm.
We do see a slight decrease in December because people are done buying.
Right.
And most of the time, I don't know if I'm going to say that or not. Most of the time during that season, people are buying for other people. It's not a selfish purchasing time.
Right. It's gift giving time.
Right.
Yes.
So they focus more on certain things per se. Certain items may not do as well during that time because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then you fall into
January,
late winter, early spring. January, February, March, not the best time.
It's okay.
Better than summer.
Oh, yes.
But not as good as your fall.
But there are certain things that sell January, February, March that don't sell other times of the year, like furniture sells well because people are redoing their homes and they're inside. So that's one thing that does sell really well. And the other thing is by mid-February, you see people wanting things for their outdoors on porch. They're already thinking spring. Yeah. They're buying
as a vendor,
stuff. Yeah.
Always think 3 months in advance.
3 months ahead.
Yes. And we do kind of implement here too. We try not to say, unless you are primarily a booth that is seasonal only, we don't really want to see Christmas and Easter.
No.
We don't want to see Halloween in April.
No, don't want to see it.
It does not reflect well to the customer's eye. I will tell you, even if you do not believe me, it doesn't look good. It looks tacky.
Now there's an exception, and I will say this. If you collect only, and you said if you're seasonal, but if you say, for instance, you have a case and not a booth, maybe you collect all vintage, completely vintage Halloween and or Christmas or both together,
And if you do, reach out.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we would love that in here. Those kind of things we love. But if you just put, I have a plastic pumpkin that I put my candy in as a kid, how those are, they're sporadic in between your booth. It looks tacky because it's not that time of year. That's the difference between not being tacky and being tacky when it comes to seasonal decor.
Yeah.
If it's a true vintage, by all means, have a collection of it.
And if you don't, if you really do know and do have access to some really true vintage holiday
it will sell.
type decorations, seasonal things, you can always keep a small part of that as a collection in your space.
Mhm.
Don't scatter it from here to there to here, because
Yes.
now your booth space looks like you're a vendor who doesn't put in time and you don't care what's in your space and you're just collecting everything.
And you're just throwing it in there.
And they, as a customer, it's overwhelming to look at.
Yes.
Your space will probably become a space that people will walk past, not in. Just from experience.
That is from experience.
So, yes, busier seasons than others. You have to know your market. You have to know your area that you're in. We are totally different here versus Centerville. So Centerville's, just looking at past numbers and so on, we've only had it for a year, but we do have access to other information as far as past years go. Summertime is good for them, and that's due to being close to
the interstate.
I just got distracted. Did you see that duck quilt? I'm surprised that's here.
Cute. Yeah, we'll have to show that. That is cute.
Anyways, you have to know where your area is. What kind of customers do you have available to you? Are you close to a highway? Are you close to large events that happen so many times a year? And we don't have that luxury here in Portland. But our biggest thing that we've really tried to build is creating the events for you vendors.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just say, okay, you're here as part of a mall, and now you do your thing, and we'll give you your check.
No,
that sounds like the easy way out. We should have just done that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be cool. This place wouldn't be cool then.
Right. Also, I think it's really important for you to research the place you're going into.
Very much so.
Not only is it good for you, but are they good for you? Making sure that their family style, their business style works for what you are wanting to get out of it. We might not be for everybody.
Yeah.
We might be too bold for some people. But we're not here just for fun. We are here to make a business out of it, Absolutely. So you really have to know what's the best for you. And I would not recommend going and asking 3 vendors that may be your friends and that's it, because they may have had a bad experience, or they may have had a wonderful experience, and you may be completely different from them. And the absolute biggest advice I can give you to be a vendor or to be any part of any business or give any kind of feedback to any business, coming from a very long line of myself and my husband, growing up with business-owned families, do not take someone else's word for their review on someplace or someone. Do your own research.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Yeah.
Do not take word from other people. They might think it's great. You might think it's terrible. You might think it's terrible. They might think it's whatever. And give it more than one experience. Take into consideration factors of who's working. You never know. It could be a really off day for somebody. Right. Somebody could have had something tragic happen. You just don't know. So,
and we have to think about that with customers.
And I would say once you select the place of choice that you want to be a vendor at, once you've gone through all the other criteria, especially time, is making sure that you have visited the location multiple times and different days of the week. So just like is a certain season busier. So to give Carla and you who are wondering what season's the best, it's fall. Late summer, early fall is your best season for resale. And I'm going to kind of think that going into garden seasoning is also a good time for us.
What's our 2 worst months of the year as far as sales go? May is one of them.
Well, I say May and late April, May. It used to be May through June, April through June. But we don't have that as lack of much anymore because we've created events to cover those times.
That's why we chose them.
Right. But you have to consider things when you are a vendor and bringing things in and selling on your dead times is what's going on in the world right now or in my area right now that makes that a difference. Yeah. So tax season, Christmas, big one, vacation season. People are out of the state, which can also be good if you're close to an area that has access to a main highway, what Centerville does. And now that we have that location, we don't see as much of a dead zone here on off seasons because people will travel to our next location if they like what they've seen.
Yes.
And garage sale season.
Yeah.
Every year so far, the vendors will go, I did so good in January and February, and I just ain't selling very good now. And I say, well, guess what? It's now garage sale season.
Yeah.
So people don't choose in this area. People don't choose to go in because they will find it at a cheaper spot, the same place you're finding stuff.
Yes. So that makes a difference.
But
Definitely.
keep in mind that you are also out there doing the work during those times, and you're going to make your fall sales make up for your spring sales or so on. And I think it's really a bad idea as a vendor to focus on, I did so good this month. I did terrible this month. Oh, I did really great this month. What the heck's happening?
That's not realistic.
You have to look at your sales as a whole within a quarter or a year. Yeah. And most likely, really, I would say, how did you do the first half of the year and how did you do in comparison to last year's first half of the year? Not comparison from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. That does not reflect how the business is doing as a whole. That reflects what else is going on in the time and place that's going to determine whether or not customers have the money to spend. Same reason why you don't have the money to spend, right? Because no one's buying because they're doing other things or so on. But I think kind of what has helped us step apart from some other places is we've really tried to build up what else can we do to make up for those dead times.
Yes. That's what we do.
Yeah. And that's a lot. That's a whole separate business within itself.
It is.
But that's why we're here. So, Darian Bradshaw, do we know her or him?
I don't know.
She's got some great ideas.
We love hearing everybody's ideas. Trust me, this is wonderful.
She mentions, going back to researching, knowing your market. Those are all really good things. That it's important. It keeps you a really good vendor. It keeps you going. And she really likes the idea of our Saturday markets.
Good.
She thinks we're going to be.
I think it'll be fun.
Really pull people in. Yeah. That's our hope and our goal.
Yeah, because it's not like we're just doing that. It's actually, we added how many extra hours to a day for me and Gary, probably.
Yeah, I don't think I can commit with my family time to come over here on Saturdays. But I do know, though, that yes, we've had conversations about it. So we're taking the leap on it. We did kind of this morning have a little bit of a freak out and think, oh my God, what the hell are we doing? And then we thought, well, we do have a really good base of people interested already, which is awesome. Thank you so much. It means our advertisements are working as well. Things that go, that's a thing that goes back to you as a vendor too. Mm-hmm. So not only what we do, but you do. So we do something to create an event to do this. Are you willing to promote the space you're in? Are you willing to be positive about the space you're in? Are you willing to create your own advertisements on your own to really promote the space and the place you're in? Because why not?
Yeah, it's
that really is the question.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a part of a spot, you put your investments and your faith into the business that you chose. The only better thing you can do is to make sure it succeeds. That's advertising on your own. That's sharing posts. And here we're sitting on Facebook like the best devil of an angel there is. And it's free. So share it. Yeah, make your own giveaways. We have multiple vendors who make their own videos and giveaways.
We do. And they do well.
We love it. And they succeed. They do great. They bring in people
customers.
On event days. They do really, really well because they put in the extra time and effort. And we now also have started giving away top sellers.
Right.
Here at the mall. We've done a lot of different things here in the last few months.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm like, I'm crashing.
You're crashing.
But we want to help you succeed. We want to reward you for doing well. We know when we see somebody who puts in the work. So we're not absent. Knowing, no.
We know what goes on, and it is true when we look at the stats that the vendors that are here more than a couple times a month people that are here every week are the ones that succeed the most. They put their time in and they get the reward for it because they do so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. So extra events help. Yes.
Us talking here hopefully helps.
We do have a large event here, and Carla was mentioning it here in Portland. We have the Tractor and Engine Show.
Yeah.
So good story about this. Okay.
I don't know what you're going to say.
You will as soon as I start talking about it. I gotta word this the right way. We came here in 2022.
In February
2022.
No, March
okay,
1st.
Whatever. In 2022. And we set ourselves our goals based on data that we had. What was going to be our daily sales? What was going to be our weekly sales records? What was going to be our next goal in sales? What do we do to get to that point? What's going to be our largest event? Okay. The answer to all that in the first year was the only large event we have is Tractor and Engine Show, because the town population more than doubles in the area. Hotels sell out. People who are interested in the life of antiques come to the mall. We were so excited. It was going to be mind-blowing how busy we were going to be. So we worked our
tails off.
Yes, cock feathers off like freaking crazy to get to the point. We did it in 3 months, 6 months max. We really turned a lot around in 3 months. So by June, we were like, okay, June 1st is our deadline. We're going to make sure we get our vendors on track. We're going to make sure we improve things that we need to and affordably can improve. And Tractor and Engine Show is going to be like the coolest thing in the world. Tractor and Engine Show comes, and it blew our socks off.
Yeah.
Yes, for the year.
Yeah.
We were more than thankful. It was so awesome. There was, a few criteria that always plays in the role of success as far as weather goes, different laws and regulations at the time, road construction, things like that you cannot help, you cannot make different. How do you make it better because of those things is what we ask ourselves. So we hit a really good goal that year. Mm-hmm. So Tractor and Engine Show by far makes our sales wonderful. Mm-hmm. And when you think of the town of Portland and you look up events, that's probably the only thing you think of that might help you as a mall vendor here. And now that's not true. And not only is it still true, but there's more things that play into reasons. So the next year we decide we're going to bring in a spring market. Mm-hmm. Okay. We work our butts off again. Get ready for spring market. The weather is -10. Okay. And Brittany becomes pregnant.
Snowing.
It was terrible all at the same time. Market day comes. We're like so distraught. This is not going to turn out. Blown away again. Best sales we've had. Okay. We decide we're going to put in the effort. We're going to do a fall market. Mm-hmm. That was our next event that year.
Yeah.
So we do the fall market. Okay. And one thing that we think about is, how do we as a business help you succeed? So what we don't want to do is overlap events. Because if you do that and you have them on the same weekends, you are not maximizing the opportunity to have 2 great sale weekends. You only have the opportunity to have 1 sale weekend. You've only brought in customers to the whole community one time. So we do it a different weekend. So now we have 3 events a year, and we've hit and exceeded sales numbers each time. Okay, so the first year, Tractor and Engine Show people came back who haven't been in for years and so on. We did a ton of advertising. Rob Weaver really helped us out doing some good plays with us, advertising down there to get people to come here. We created maps on how to get here. All those types of things that cost money and time that we make sure that happen. And that you probably would overlook if you didn't know that they were going on, and but things that we really, really, really want you as vendors to know that happens. And those are the things you want to look at when you're looking at a place to be a part of is does that company do things for you to help you succeed?
Right.
And so then the next year, as we exceeded ourselves, we're like, okay, we're going to do spring market again. Now we're going to add ladies' night. Okay. Because now we have this dead time in the summer that our sales are wonderful, but they're still lower than the other times of the year.
Right.
So we add that. Parking lot's packed, right?
Yeah, it's only 3 hours.
Gary gets on the roof. He's like, look at this video. You guys, this is so awesome. Okay. And keep in mind, every time we do this, we then create a new goal for ourselves. And we're like,
Oh,
okay, we
yeah.
have to exceed those sales and those things that we did. So then we decided to do, fall market again, and sales were crazy. But before fall market came, we had Tractor and Engine Show. Tractor and Engine Show came, and the sales were even better than the year before because everybody talked about what they'd seen the year before, and
we had vendors
it
that
was
were
really
set
good.
up there that
We
have cards.
we traveled down there
Yep.
and
You and I went
handed
out
flyers
down
out.
last year. Here and I went.
And here we do the same. Just we don't want to go steal from an event in the community. We make sure we're advertising here what's going on in the community upcoming too, because that gives our people who come in the summer a reason to come back in fall because there's more going on in the area than just what's happening here at Wheel and Spoke.
Yeah.
And then we had our fall market, and our fall market doubled the sales in one day that we received for Tractor and Engine Show weekend.
Oh, well,
more than that.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Way more.
So to go back to this very long conversation is, yes, at one time, Tractor and Engine Show was our main goal here in town, and it still is. It's still a good focus because it's wonderful for the community, and so we really do try to push that weekend, but we don't want to take away from that event either.
Right.
So we created these other events to make the one weekend that was wonderful for many, many years of this being an antique mall to making 4 weekends like that wonderful. Right. And so it's worked.
It's worked.
Not to mention this year's spring open
market,
house
was tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't. I'm just blown away by the numbers.
One day we had sales that reflect a half a month worth of sales here for our vendors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
just
it's
under half a month.
Insane.
Yeah. So you can think 15 days and 1 day in sales. So, as a vendor, pay attention to those things, research what your place is doing, work up to that next event that they're throwing. The times that they're not throwing an event, that's your time to do work and to really know, do your research, go shopping, get new merchandise, research and plan and have goals on what your space is going to be like, what your sales are going to potentially be for the next event.
Yes, that's I was going to say.
Always work towards. So the times we don't have the events is your quote quote dead time as a vendor, but you're doing outside work. Mm-hmm. You're doing work to gear up for that next potential customer base that you're going to then gain. So each event that we do, we see the following week or the week after is usually pretty good because people come in here and they bring their friends back. So we know the event is working.
Or they couldn't purchase something large and they wanted it come back.
So don't just fall off water whenever the event's over because you don't want to miss your opportunity for that.
Yeah, so always be thinking ahead when it comes to purchasing your items and what your booth is going to look like because we do the same thing for spring event. We're thinking already December, January, and every time Gary goes out to buy, this will be great for spring market. And he does really well choosing those items, and I have to jump in a few times and go with him.
I don't enjoy the buying aspect whatsoever. But you give me a pile of quote JUNK and I will make it something. But
exactly.
Not everybody can do that. So that's something we completely understand. And going back to a very point of view at the beginning is, do you have time? Do you have the energy to do it? Do you know enough about what you want to do? And if you don't, are you afraid to ask?
Yeah.
We can't help you all the time, but we sure can give you pointers on how to succeed. And if you take them, you might succeed.
That's right.
You can come on through.
Yeah.
If you can get around, you'll be okay.
Can you get around that? Okay. We set up in this spot because
it has good Wi-Fi.
And we have a blank wall behind us. Can you get it? Poor girl.
We've created a disaster, so maybe we're not that great on customer help. Huh?
No, you are. I can attest.
Okay.
Can they hear me?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. Okay. So, anyways,
have to watch us on Facebook. You hear your voice probably.
Okay.
Getting closer here.
Well, it's 2:11. We've been
Yeah.
talking for an
We've
hour
been
and
talking, and that goes quick, doesn't it? Especially when you do all the talking. I'm sitting here like,
Yeah, so this is our podcast, Brass Knobs and Back Talk, and it's not always about the back talk, it's
No.
about the brass knobs. Not the ones up here, but my husband had a very good time with that. He thought,
yeah.
"Can I please design a t-shirt?"
Yeah. Him and Eric were
No.
on it, weren't they?
Nope.
They were sending our family group chat all kinds of pictures.
Anyways, our main purpose is to be here for you guys to appreciate the world of antique ownership and
Have fun.
business life
Yes.
and family life and a little bit of fun and banter here and there. Probably not making liver casserole ever anytime soon again. Your brother was like, I watched that before he just had a baby.
Oh,
And
yeah,
he
you
said,
watched
I
it.
watched that before I went to bed and I laughed my ass off.
Oh, God.
Anyways, we're here to entertain, but also here to help you succeed. So that's it for you want to be a booth vendor.
All right.
If
That
you are,
was informative for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
put an application in. We
You can-
always save them. We always look back on them when something comes open.
If you have questions,
Hopefully,
on
if you're
here,
current vendors, you've learned some things. And we can't wait to see you tomorrow for our live sale. Patriotic sale. Yeah. It's Memorial Day weekend. We are open normal business hours here in Centerville. But tomorrow for our live sale, we'll be doing red, white, and blue things of all sorts. No specific gender, no specific theme, no era, just red, white, and blue.
Yes.
Because there's a specific theme. There's no theme. Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Finish button.